Potentia Wealth brings you the Power of Wealthness podcast.
Welcome to the Power of Wealthness. My name is Kevin Swanson, and I've got my co-host along with me, Todd Barney. Today, we are talking about something that impacts almost everyone's life, and that's education. Education determines where we go in life, how far we go in life, and also how we pay for that education for ourselves, for our grandkids, for our children. It's an important part of life. And today we've got our guest, Dr. Vincent Del Casino Jr.
You made my dad proud. Thank you. Hi, Dad.
As I was talking to Vin, as everyone who knows and loves him refers to him, prior to this podcast, I said, what does a provost do? Because that's what he has on his name badge. And he was very honest and said he really didn't know.
I'm still working it through. It's only been 6 years.
So I did go online and do a little research. Provost, Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs, Professor of Urban and Regional Planning, well-established social and medical geographer with recent interest in the interactions of robots in human life, automation and labor, political ecology and health. That's a whole lot.
It is a whole lot. That's the beauty of being a geographer. There's pretty much nothing that doesn't fit in your purview somewhere.
So this puts you in the number 2 position in the university. However, you've also served in that number 1 position as interim president.
It was a 2-week reign of terror, in between an interim president and a permanent president. And everyone was thankful when the holiday was over and the real president showed up.
So beyond the long title that you've got here, what does a provost do?
It is a really great question because people don't think about it, but, people understand chief information officer. They understand chief financial officer. I'm the chief academic officer. My job is to make sure that the university is upholding the highest standards of academic excellence that it can across its teaching enterprise, its research enterprise, and the student experience. And so all the faculty, all the deans, all the programs, all the curricular innovation that goes on flows through the Division of Academic Affairs. And we end up making up about 65% of the university when it comes down to it. And so I never thought in a million years anyone would give me a $300 million plus budget to run, but apparently that is what happened. And I guess if you read enough French continental theory as a child and study some geography, anything's possible.
That's excellent. So talk to me a little bit about San José State for the folks that aren't as familiar with the university. How big is it? What's happening there that we should be aware of?
So if you look at San José State today, it is going to be north of 40,000 students this fall. And that's across a wide range of programs. We are a comprehensive university. And while we're definitely known for business and technology and engineering and so forth, we have a health college, we have a new college of information, data, and society, social science, humanities. So we do everything, including education, right? And so our job as the only public university in Santa Clara County and in the South Bay, we drive a lot of the economy. We make sure that schools have teachers, social work offices have social workers, engineering companies have engineers, biotech companies have biologists. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis. And we're answering some of the most important questions that you can possibly think about, because we're the second largest research university in the California State University. We spend about $85 to $88 million a year on the research enterprise.
You just had a new research science building that was completed on the campus there. And you also received an R2 designation. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Interdisciplinary Science Building is a cutting-edge science building that is designed to integrate teaching and research together. And in interdisciplinary ways, so that chemists and biologists and others are thinking about questions. Because the truth is, questions are not contained by disciplines. They never really have been, but it's even more so today, where you have to look at questions from all different kinds of angles. And that building now also houses our College of Information, Data, and Society and our Applied Data Intelligence program. So we got a lot of things going on in that 8-story building. what's also happening is that's driving a chunk of our research enterprise, which has allowed us to become an R2 university, which is a high research productive university that also has doctoral degrees. And something people don't know about San José State is 25% of our students are graduate students.
Well,
we generate 50% of all the masters in engineering in the California State University. And I know people love to talk about some of the other campuses in the system. We generate 8% of all the engineers in the state of California amongst all four-year institutions. There's not a university that graduates more. But then you add our master's in library, our computer science programs. We probably have between 6,000 and 7,000 students, management information systems, doing things at the intersections of computing and information, which is, last I checked, a pretty big part of what Silicon Valley is. So we are a reflection of this valley and a voice in this valley and a node through which all this stuff happens. And the research designation, the doctoral productivity, the graduate and undergraduate experience all comes together to provide a really vibrant connection to all the different things kind of going on in San Jose and in the Silicon Valley.
the impact that San Jose State University has on its students goes beyond the campus, though. You've got a marine biology program at Moss Landing. You've got an online teaching program as well that you put together.
Yes, we have the privilege of having the Moss Landing Marine Labs as part of San Jose State. And it's a totally interdisciplinary team. Everyone, there's 10 tenure track faculty and nearly 100 researchers sitting at the edge of Monterey Bay, which is like a perfect place to do deep sea work very close to the shore. We also have Reed Hillview. We have an aviation program. We want a few universities that has a full aviation program as well. So we have students learning how to be pilots and mechanics and other things like that. And then we've built out and expanded our educational opportunities through SJSU Online at the undergraduate level to help adult learners get back, 8-week classes, asynchronous, really, high turnover, allows them to adapt to their living experience, but the same high quality degree with the same expectations, just delivered in a different way to allow people to advance their lives. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help people find their path forward. And the truth is, we have to personalize education and connect to every individual student and figure out how we help each one of those people find their way through. And there's not one singular journey through higher education. There never really has been, but more than we really see it now, that everyone needs a multitude of ways to engage with our institution. And so we're trying to provide that to them.
You've brought up a couple of times interdisciplinary and connectivity.
Yeah.
How is it? Give us a success story on that. How's that actually panned out in a real life example?
Oh, there's so many. Let's just talk about artificial intelligence right now as an example, and robotics, and sort of the questions of what it's going to look like when everyone's working alongside a robot, or what it means to engage in robotic technologies, which we all do now all the time. We have intentionally decided that over this 3-year period, half the jobs, the new tenure track faculty jobs, are going to sit at the intersections of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and science and technology studies. And so that's not just in engineering. It's not just in computer science. We hired 2 faculty this year in education, thinking about the applications of artificial intelligence to K-12 education. How are we integrating and changing how we teach and engage students and use technologies to really advance their learning? We're hiring social robotics and anthropology. We've obviously got the computer sciences, but the other thing I'm really proud of, and this nothing to do with me, my job is to plow the road and make sure people can do stuff, but our humanities college and our science college came together and built an undergraduate degree in computer science and linguistics. And they're now building a master's in computational linguistics. I don't know. Natural language processing seems to be kind of a big deal. Right? And so the question to the interdisciplinarity is, each one of these things takes all these disciplines to really ask about. So think of it. We're going to apply a new technology. What does that mean to our culture? That's what an anthropologist does. What does it mean to our education? That's what an education scholar does. What does it mean for our health? That's what a public health scholar does. And so we're infusing the institution with these questions and even asking the ethical questions. What does this mean for us? As we give over more and more of our data, right? What does this mean for us individually, and how are we going to comport ourselves in this world that's so intertwined now that it's impossible to disentangle it and pull out one thing, right? It's just so oversubscribed, and we have to help people figure that out. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah. When we look at the attendance in most of the CSUs, we see it dropping in a lot of schools. Yet you gave us a number of 40,000 students at San José State. What does that mean? Are we doing better? Are we doing worse? Where do we stand in that process?
Yeah, it's a really great question. If you follow demographics, right, there's something coming called the demographic cliff, which is the number of children who were born 15, 18 years ago is declining and will continue to decline through the mid 2030s. And so that obviously has a pretty big impact on higher education. And California is not immune to these changes, particularly Northern California. And Northern California looks a lot more like the rest of the United States. Southern California still has a pretty big boom. But what you're seeing is a lot of schools are struggling with enrollment right now. We're not. Not only that, we are given a target of California residents to teach every year by the system, and we're projecting we're going to be at 110% of that target. And we are that way because I believe we are responding to the world around us and creating really high quality learning experiences that students want to engage and people want to be a part of. And when you do that, I think you really elevate, the reason people go. And the other thing is people, as you all know, people underestimate the South Bay. We are the power engine. This is where the people are. We are bigger than San Francisco, right? We have a lot of vibrancy in this community, and people are excited to engage their university in that vibrancy. And then the last thing I'll say is we're creating multiple pathways for people to enter the university and get out. And as long as we do that, we're going to continue to succeed. We're the largest international university in the California State University. We have almost 3,000 international students as well.
We were also recently recognized by the Wall Street Journal.
That is right. They ranked 500 universities in the United States, including the Ivies. Amongst all of those, we were 16th, including the Ivies. We were the fourth public. And what they were measuring, which is very important, they were measuring return on investment and social mobility. And we knock that out of the park. We still provide an incredibly high quality degree at a price point that people can deal with for the most part. And then we get them into the workforce in a way that they're earning really good salaries and able to advance themselves. And that's really a big part of what we're supposed to do, right? Is to help train and educate that next generation. And we do that because our faculty and our staff are deeply engaged in bringing the students into the experiences of their labs, their research projects, their classes from day one. Mm-hmm. And so people know you come recruit at San José State, you're going to get somebody who knows how to roll up their sleeves and do the job and think really critically about that work.
That's interesting. You brought up the return on investment. Let's focus on the investment side, the cost. How do you balance that piece? We know that this is an expensive area to live. It's the cost of education. We see all of the statistics of the inflation rate of education. How do you balance that from the university standpoint?
Well, there is a big narrative out there about the inflationary cost of education. And when people talk about it, they're talking about 10 universities in the Northeast and a bunch of private schools, one of which, to be transparent, I went to. And when you look at public education, particularly in California, and despite the challenges of the state budget, there has been a long-term commitment to public education. And so the price point for tuition for our students is reasonable relative to that market. In fact, the data show that a student graduating from San José State has an average debt load of about $15,000. Versus the hundreds of thousands of dollars you hear about all the time. The second thing is we set aside 33% of all tuition for financial aid back to our students. More than 50% of our students do not pay tuition. Wow. Through either Pell Grants, how important is that federal program? GI Bill, right? There's a state version of the California, the California grant, and then the set aside, right? But the challenge for our students is housing. It's a cost of living, right? And so we have some students who are like, I got to live at home. I need to do it this way. But we also now have over 5,000 beds, including a 5-star hotel that we bought and converted, which is pretty nice. I must admit, I didn't get marble bathrooms when I was at my private liberal arts college.
So we had brick buildings that looked like prisons.
That's right. Now they have marble bathrooms and, the Santa Barbara suite in that hotel. But, that conversion of space downtown adds vibrancy, but it also adds access for our students. And more than that, we've bought down over 500 of those beds based on need. So students are paying lower rates if they really need it to get into housing. And when you can create that entire environment and let students be students, they're going to thrive. They're going to move forward. They're going to graduate quickly. They're going to get themselves to that next step. And that's what's really exciting about what we're doing.
As we spent a lot of time with our clients in the planning process to look at education of their children and how do we pay for that, and talking about the custodial accounts or educational accounts or any of those things that we can do to help them better prepare for paying for college, and kind of deciding what type of a college experience that they want their kids to have as well.
Yeah, and I think you have to really have that conversation with your future student about what they want. I will say one of the things, so I'll give you a story. So I am junior. My dad, hi dad, he's like, get that chemistry degree. That's what I started in. Your uncle Vinny, my great uncle Vinny, worked at Pfizer, you got a pathway. And I got to college and it's like, no, I want to study Japanese and learn East Asian studies. And it was the 80s. So, and they just bought Rockefeller Center. So my dad could relate to like that. But the most important thing is finding your passion in higher education. And I think whatever investment a family is going to make or a community is going to make in a student, if you help them find their path, they're going to be successful. And one of the biggest things that I see all the time is like, oh, you have to be X because that's the only ROI. And what happens is many students crash and burn. And that pressure. So if I'm speaking to the family members and the investment you're going to make, and they say, you know what, I'm really interested in the intersection of philosophy and geography, let them go. But then help them find ways to translate those skills into real tangible things that they can say then, hey, I can apply this to whatever life goal I have. And that's one of the biggest things. And these are big investments, even if we can help with tuition. You're still going to spend a fair chunk of money getting somebody through school because they can't work as often and all that kind of experience. And so that's really critical, is having that conversation, find that passion point, and then helping them see themselves in that and find the right experiences so they get, they can tie that learning into the hands-on work. I mean, we have one of the best animation programs in the world at San José State. And you end up at Pixar, like that's not a bad job.
Kevin brought up, we talk to our clients about planning for the children's education, or depending on the age, of course. How does the university bring the student into that? One of the biggest lacking areas are just basic financial literacy. So when do you engage with the student? How do you help on that side of the equation?
That conversation starts pretty early because of their need to go through financial aid. And one of the biggest things is we have the FAFSA, the financial aid system for the federal government. It's very important that people understand that that's a critical piece. And a lot of people are nervous about loans now because they hear those stories of hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. But I will tell you, if you can take a couple years of loans, if you can graduate in 4 years and not 5, you have 1 more year of earning towards your lifetime. And if you can graduate in 4 and not 6, you have 2 more years of earning. And all the data show that you're probably north of $1 million more with those couple of years ahead. So people often are afraid of that. So we try to really work through that with students, applying, putting in your federal financial aid application so that we can apply need-based aid if you need it. And we're trying to build up now a merit-based scholarship program as well in a few areas so that we can really invest in students in important ways. But we try to meet that need, and we try to teach them early on about what it's like to work through all of this, because it is complicated and messy. I'm a provost. I have a freshman in college, and it's hard for me. So I know that that's not an easy pathway to work through.
Shocked at how well you've been able to manage the costs and benefit the student body. How does the philanthropic piece come in? Is it more to support the university, or is it support outcomes? What are you seeing from that standpoint for those that are looking to support?
It's really interesting because, back in the day when the tuition and fees were largely covered, right? There wasn't a push for a California State University like San José State to invest in its philanthropic enterprise. But as the cost has risen, and I don't want to underestimate the cost, because we work on the marginal dollar without a doubt, and we have to also retain not just students, but faculty and staff in this a very expensive place. The philanthropic work is critical. It goes directly often to students through scholarships. And again, that scholarship is the difference between a student who can afford to set aside a part-time job to take an internship, right? That's going to advance your career. And a lot of students are going, I don't think I can give up this job, even though it's not my passion to take this internship, because I don't know how I can afford that. So those direct investments come very importantly. The other thing is, faculty and to work with students need investment, our lab spaces, time in the summer, to advance those kinds of projects are really valuable as well. So we're looking at a multitude of ways in which people could invest back. But I will tell you, the ROI on our dollars, we did an economic analysis just before the pandemic. We get about $250 million a year from the state. We generate over $4 billion of economic activity on an annual basis. Find eightfold every year financial return on your money, and you've got wealthness like nobody's business.
Absolutely.
Right? And we do that at scale. We graduate 10,000 people a year. That's scale. That's power. That's effectiveness. So, trying to get people to see that small modest investment that they make in a student or in a faculty program or even in a building, a facility, is transformative to their lives and their experience. And that goes all the way from athletics all the way across the academic enterprise.
You say the same thing then for the impact we're having in the corporate world. And yet I don't see you see Adobe has been very supportive, but there's not a whole lot of companies that are working with San José State, given we're in the middle of Silicon Valley.
We're not just in the middle of Silicon Valley, which we are driving the bus. And I'm just going to be dead honest about that. San José State has more alumni at Apple than any other university in the country. Over 2,000 alumni work at Apple, over 1,500 at Google, almost 800 at NVIDIA. And then you look C-suite, forget about it. Right? We're all over the place. And Adobe has come in. They've given us $4 million, over $4 million in the last 4 years to embed digital and creative literacy at the intersections of artificial intelligence into the total student experience. We're now actually doing digital and creative literacy in our writing program. So they're not just learning how to write, they're learning how to put that in a multimedia environment. Like, that's a skill set that anybody can take to any job. You'd love to have somebody in your office who could do multimedia work, and take your stories and put them out there in that short snippet that people of our generation simply do not know how to do. So doing all that. So Adobe's been really great, but you're right. It is a little surprising sometimes that we're not at a higher scale with that, but I see a lot of relationships being built. And over the last 6 or 7 years, I think the story about San Jose State's value in the community and the region has been elevated. And I think under President Cynthia Teniente Matson, who is out there all the time,
Yes, she is.
I think the story is being told. And our athletics enterprise is another way our story is being told. And then our students carrying them out. But there's a pride now to San Jose State. And people are proud to wear the SJSU and walk around the town. And I think that's starting to, a lot more players are coming to the table and going, how do we participate? How do we engage? We signed an MOU with NVIDIA. It's a pretty big company last time I checked, and we're going to create an entire digital twinning learning environment so that faculty and staff and students can work in an ecosystem, a virtual ecosystem that can be translated to any kind of question or job. And NVIDIA is helping us build that lab out now and help us. We're in fact training faculty at NVIDIA who can do that work. So that's a really valuable corporate partnership. It may not be a direct, dollar investment, but that in-kind work is even more powerful sometimes.
I've heard that we have in the South Bay area somewhere between 250,000 to 300,000 alumni alive today.
Well, we are the oldest public university in the Western United States, and we moved to San Jose in 1871. And we predate the land grants. We predate Berkeley. And we're as we all know, the offshoot of San Jose State is a small school down the road called UCLA. That was the other teaching school before they abandoned their mission. We stuck hard. We kept doing what we do. But yeah, hundreds of thousands of alumni.
So if they get to a point where, let's say, they don't have the $5 million that Adobe does, but they want to give back, or they want to play a role at San Jose State or somehow get reconnected, how would they do that?
We have an amazing alumni association, and it's an entry point for alumni, and it's a place where you can come back and connect and learn, hey, what can I do to volunteer? Or could I, how can I contribute? And there's programming for alumni as well, because some alumni are actually trying to figure out how to retool their career. So there's ways in which we're also trying now to create educational opportunities for alumni who might need to come back. They don't need a whole degree, but they need some skill building in certain areas so that they can continue to advance their career. So we're creating that environment, but the Alumni Association clearly the front door to that. And once you're engaged, we will get you involved. Like, we will find ways to connect you with student clubs. We have a lot of alumni who come in and will meet with student groups and talk about their experiences, or even better, alumni who have problems in their organization or challenges. Throw it in one of our classrooms. Let them chew on it for you for a while, and then feedback with them. Students love that engagement, and the alumni tend to get a lot out of it. And so there's a lot of different ways to kind of get in and then stay in. And, you should come to our performances. We run the Hammer Theater. You should come to our athletics events because they're amazing and our student athletes are incredible. Soccer game this Friday night. I don't know when we're going live, so maybe that was a mistake. But, the opportunity to even see the art and other things that our students are doing.
Amazing. I've got one last question for you, at least from my side, is being that it's a Power of Wealthness podcast that you're on, what's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received?
So it wasn't plastics. And I was born in 1968. For everyone who gets that joke, you can go look it up. So when I got my first faculty position at California State University in Long Beach, I was out with a mentor, and he said to me, start a 403B. I was living on campus because I had a faculty in residence, so I had free housing. And he said, put the max away, and you can borrow that money for your first property. And I did that. And I bought a condo in Long Beach, California in 2001 or 2. And I paid $138,000. I thought I got ripped off. Meanwhile, I sold that condo 2 years later for $264,000. And what I learned from that was that was a really powerful piece of advice, because he's like, once you borrow, you got to pay that back, but you're paying yourself back. And from that very moment, I set myself on a path to make sure that I had a solid retirement foundation, and that I was building that so that if I ever had kids, which I eventually did, I can pass that on to them as well. And that was a really powerful, I never thought of it. And because, I was a I was in college for 11 years, like I was really good at juggling and I could bartend. So what did I know? Right. So that was a really, really powerful piece of advice.
But you did become a doctor. So that's the good news.
I do. I am a doctor after when all is said and done.
That's excellent. Any other questions from you, Kevin?
Just that we will be putting a link on our social media to the Alumni Association for San José State for those who would like to get connected or who would like more information. And for those who are listening to this podcast, how would they find the Alumni Association?
It's sjsu.edu/alumni. There you go. It's really simple.
That's excellent. Well, Vin, thank you for joining Kevin and I. We absolutely appreciate it. The power of wealthness, it's holistic, just like you and San Jose State are bringing to the table for the students, for the largest corporations around the world, or community at large. So we absolutely appreciate it. As Kevin said, you can find the link in the comments section. And for those listening, please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll continue to have topics like this going forward. Thanks and have a profitable day.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Wealthness podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at potentiawealth.com or give us a call at 408-288-7886. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Potentia Wealth or Potentia RIA. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Investment advice offered through Potentia RIA LLC, a registered investment advisor.